going on YouTube? So today I'm going to showcase my endgame martial knowledge Stamina, also known as MK-Sorc, updated for the Necrom and Update 39 DLC patch. This build is capable of pulling over 120k on the parse dummy and is viable and tailored for group content. As with all endgame builds, it will be a group focused build that revolves around using trial or best in slot gear, so it's not a beginner or solo friendly build. Furthermore, please use these builds as a baseline, as different situations and scenarios will require different gear sets and skills. So martial knowledge is a set that drops from Craglorn, often used in trial comps because of the extra damage it gives to everybody. It has 5 seconds of duration and has a cooldown of 8 seconds, meaning with good uptimes you should be around 60% uptime. The caveat is you do have to be 50% stam or lower, so I'm going to be pairing this with a set that's going to benefit us from low stam, which is Coral Riptide. And with all that said, here's the build. As per usual, starting off in the character sheet, I have 64 points in a stamina and the Thief Mundus. So we are a stamina based build, so we're going with Dark Elf for our preferred race for this build. So for the food, for end content, as a general rule, RTM takeaway broth is probably your best bet, and the cheaper alternative, dubious camera on throne, would work just fine. If you do have too much sustain though, you can switch to buy stat food for no recovery and just health and stam. As far as parsing is concerned, I chose lava food soup and salt rice and then dumped all my stam in the beginning. I've also done it with running single stat or just green max stam food and then not stam dumping. Whichever one works better for you should be fine. As far as potions are concerned, because we don't have access to major brutality or major savagery, we're just using essence of weapon power. These potions do cost a bit to make, so make sure you have 3 points from the medicinal use from the alchemy skill line to benefit from the full duration of the potion as well. So for CP, for the blue tree, we're going to be running Exploiter, Master at Arms, Deadly Aim, and Wrathful Strikes. Swap out Exploiter if you don't have access to off balance or you need more crit damage. Backstabber and Fighting Finesse are 2 valid choices. For the red CP, we're just running Celerity, Rejuve, Fortified, and Boundless Vitality. So moving on to gear, we're going to be running 5 pieces of Martial Knowledge, paired with 5 pieces of Coral Riptide, and then a Maelstrom back bar with Harpooners and 1 piece Slime. So breaking down in the main hand, we have a Nirnhone Dagger Martial Knowledge with a Flame Damage enchant. In the offhand, Charge with a Poison Damage. On the back bar, we're running the new Maelstrom Perfected Greatsword, infused with a Weapon Damage enchant. And for the head slot, we're running Light Slime Crawl in Divines with Max Stam. For the rest of the body, except for the legs, we're running 5 pieces of Coral Riptide, all trade in Divines with Max Stam. And for the leg slot, Harpooners, Divines with Max Stam. And for the jewelry, 3 pieces of Martial Knowledge, all traded in Bloodthirsty with Weapon and Spell Damage enchants. And lastly, for the skills, we're running Daedric Prey because this is going to buff our pet damage, including our Atronach. We're running Rapid Strikes as our spammable. Strong Single Target, offers no cleave though. Bound Armaments, this skill does pretty good damage, especially after the 4 stacks, and the passive max stam increase by 8% is also nice. 2 pets, because we are a Sorc, we're running the Volatile Familiar and then the Twilight Tormentor. Activate your Volatile Familiar, but don't touch your Twilight Tormentor unless it's just for pre-buffing. In terms of our ultimate for a front bar, we're running Greater Storm Atronach, super strong ultimate. On top of that, gives all your allies Major Berserk for 10 seconds. On the back bar, we're running Stampede because of the VMA Greatsword. Carve also has a little shield, and the good thing is after 3 stacks, you only have to cast it every 32 seconds, so lasts a while as well. Barb Trap, because we need access to Minor Force, also does good damage, including proccing Hemorrhaging. And then the 2 pets, double barred so that we don't lose them. And then we have Power Overload here just for ult dumping and parsing purposes, but you can run Storm Atronach here and then Dawnbreaker on your front bar for a little more DPS and content. So for the rotation, we're just be running a dynamic rotation, meaning we're going to be recasting our dots as they fall off. So the dot priority is keeping your Carve Up, Stampede, Daedric Prey, Trap, and Volatile Familiar. And then to plug in the gaps, you can use your Rapid Strikes as your spammable and Bound Armaments at 4 stacks, but don't prioritize your Bound Armaments, prioritize your dots instead. The Twilight Tormentor is slotted for the passive damage, and Greater Storm Atronach is the ult we'll be using. Power Overload is just there for ult dumping, so change to Atro at about 180 ult or 200 and then plus light attack and Greater Storm Atronach. So for closing thoughts, You can swap out your rapid strikes for something like silver shards if you do need more AoE. And if you don't want to bother with carve, you can always swap that out for something like hurricane. In terms of gear alternatives, you can swap out coral for something like Solzan or Reliquin, or even just another AoE set like Aegis Color or something would be okay as well. For the back bar, instead of running Maelstrom Greatsword, you can technically run something like a VMA Destro Staff for more AoE, or even one of the bows like Dragon Star or Maelstrom. You're going to lose a little bit of single target DPS, but you will gain a significant amount of AoE DPS. And for mythics, instead of harpooners, you can run something like Velothi or even Mora. Those should be fine. Once again, this is super comp dependent, so whatever your trial lead wants or whatever you think is better, feel free to run that instead. And I think that wraps it up. As always, thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, or better yet, come join our Discord. Link is in the description. I will have a written guide linked in the description for those who would prefer that instead. And as always, thank you to my YouTube members. If you want to help me support my content creation, please consider becoming a member. And as always, thanks again, and see you in the next one.